Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show we're going to be painting up two brand new bodies for my Tamiya Vanquishes. Yes, that's more than one. I now have two Vanquishes. If you haven't seen the previous video, I'll put a link up here. I've actually decided to have one as a shelf queen and the other is going to be my driver. Off camera, I've actually put new electrics into this car, and this car is now fully working again, so it's got modern electronics because it's going to be the driver. Also off camera, I fixed the steering. It was missing a few parts, so I managed to get hold of those, and now the steering is fully operational again. I need to change the motor, but for just to see make sure everything was running okay, it was fine. If some of you can notice, this actually got a Traxxas servo in it. This is left over from my TRX4 and it's good enough for now. I will upgrade it in the future for something a little bit more faster. So it's pretty much fully working, and as for the other one is now fully finished. I did get contacted by someone who has very good attention to detail and noticed that this servo that came with this car isn't actually the correct one. It should be an old style with the loop up cable, and also this should be squared off. So I've managed to find one, and that's coming. So as soon as that arrives, I'll pull out this one, put the new one in. I might have to use some of the cable because these cables are perfect. So I might have to adjust it a little bit. I'm not sure. I have to wait and see when the cables come. So that should make it exactly as it should be. I'm still missing the little rubber mount that covers the crystal. So I'll try and source one of those at some point, and then it will be exactly as it should be. I'm still going to upgrade the motor because I've decided I'm not too keen on this motor. So I will put something a little bit more special in this car at some point. So the cars are coming along quite nicely. So we turn our attentions to the bodies. Now, I've got two TBG bodies to paint. Now I'm going to do one in standard, exactly box art, just like this one. And the other one, I thought, well, let's have a bit of fun. You know, I normally do box art if you've watched any of my videos, but as we've got two and I'm going to do a runner, well, I thought let's do it in camel yellow, which is PS19. So we're going to go with that. Now, the reason I went for this kind of radical colour was one thing I really like about the Vanquish body is it's got this swoop, which looks like a fighter canopy. Well, I thought on the driving car, I'm going to do this in black. I'm actually going to black it out. Normally I prefer going the other way and having a driver, but the driver kind of sits back in this car and it looks a little bit awkward. Really, you should have more like a Vanquish driver in here, should have more of an egress driver in here, but it actually comes with this sort of standard driver. But one is going to be exactly as it should be, and the other I'm going to black this out, and then I'm going to do the rest of the car in camel yellow. And it should give it this real sharp, sleek look. So it's just a bit of fun. They're not original bodies, obviously, so it doesn't really matter. I can always replace it if I don't like it. As for the stickers, I'm not sure whether the red and silver stickers will go that well with the camel yellow, but we'll just have to play it by ear. I might use some of the stickers, but not all of them. But hey, it's part of the fun. So it could turn out really well, or it could turn out a total disaster. But we'll do that as well. Then later on in another video, when I've got a bit more time, I might try and do something to see if I can save these original bodies. They actually are in reasonably good condition. They just are painted up really badly. So we'll see. Right, that's pretty much it. So we better crack on cutting these bodies out first, and then we'll mask them up.
Through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light. I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red.
Hi, so the footage that you saw before this one was actually over a week ago now. I was ill quite a bit this week. Also, I was away with work. So I'm very busy with work at the moment, so taking time off work is not an option. So with a lot of travel with work and obviously being a bit ill, I took the weekend because I just couldn't face cutting all the bodies out. But I'm better now. Work is still manic, but hey, that's work, I guess. So I wanted to crack on and get the bodies for these finished. So off camera, I finished trimming them out and sanding them down. They're both pretty much done now. I haven't drilled the holes for the spoilers, so I still got that to do. But they're pretty much ready for paint. What's left to do? Well, I've got to put the masks in. Get the masks in first, then mask off certain areas, and then do the first paint. Now, I'm not sure whether I'm going to do both in tandem or whether I'm going to focus on one, paint that, and then focus on the other. I don't know. I'll start by masking up the Shelf Queen one, and then I'll see how I feel. Right, let's crack on, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to get this video to you, but life happens sometimes. Right, let's get going. So this is how far I've got with the car. Now, I've masked off the main section. I also masked off this back section as well. Now, this is going to be the standard box art car. So the whole part of this back bit is black, and then this part here is silver, and then this bit's clear. Now, I've taken an executive decision that I actually, as this bit is going to be silver, I'm going to do this section here in silver as well. So it's fractionally different to the box art one. But I think because of the extra work involved in having to mask this up, that's why it's been left black. Because the only silver part on the car is this little section around the front and then this little bead around here. So it would flow better. And obviously you've got this whole section here. So it's taken a bit more time to mask this bit off because it's not the easiest thing to mask. So I'm gonna paint the whole car black. Then I've got to peel off these sections and mask up just the middle section, and then we spray that bit silver. Next, I've got to clean the inside, key up this section, and then we can blow it in on black. That's fingers crossed. There's always, when you're painting these up, there's always a element of luck involved. A lot of people struggle to get crisp lines. Now what I find is I use these are Tamiya edging lines, and when you press them against the plastic they change colour, so you can tell you've got a good bond. They go from light to dark. Now these are fantastic for a sharp edge. So if all you have to do is use these and take your time. I work from the inside looking from the outside to line things up, because that's how you look at the car. If you just work from the inside and try and line it up, especially if you're using re-re bodies, they're not as precise. So you've got to get your lines right from looking on the outside. So what I do is I work with lining up everything from the outside, and then when it looks correct from lots of angles, then you know I'm happy with it, and when I paint it, hopefully it's going to give me a crisp line and it's going to be exactly in the right place. If you get a slight bleed through or a slight error, you can go back and you can fix that yourself. So as long as you take your time, you can get pretty sharp lines. It's just patience and time really, and just being a bit thorough. But if you do that and then you get a mistake, usually it will be a tiny mistake, then you can use a paintbrush and then you can go in with some paint remover or adding a little bit more paint to tweak that little issue area. But if you rush it, that's where it's going to... here's a classic example of a body that was painted by someone and was just rushed. And as you can see all around the window, I don't know if I can show you there, all around the windows, if I can line it up for you, you can see the blue is overhanging the edges. Now the paint job is actually okay, but what's letting the body down the most is this section around the window. So the difference between an okay paint job and a really good paint job is your edges. It really comes down to your edges. Anyway, I'm waffling on a little bit, so let's get scouring and painting. So that's what a first coat looks like. So you can still see through it quite well. And also it helps seal the joints. If you do a light coat, where the actual tape joins are, it blocks them up. So that also helps with any kind of through run or anything like that. Right, I'm now going to go and finish doing the same few coats, and then we'll come back once I've finished applying all the black. Right, so we've painted up the body. It was about 4 coats I think I did in the end. The weather changed quite a lot halfway through painting it, so I was up against it, so I had to go a bit quicker than I'd normally like to go. It's dry-ish, so I'm going to now try and take off the mask if I can and see what it came out like. Hopefully it came out alright. It's still a bit soft, so I have to be careful, and then see if there's anything that needs touching in or anything like that. Okay, it's not perfect. I might try and touch it in with a pen a little bit. When I pulled the last line off, it you can't really see, but it's just lifted a fraction, so I might try and touch that in a little bit. We are going to silver, which is reasonably dark anyway, so that's not too much of a problem. If you was going to like yellow, for instance, then it would show up any kind of imperfection. So that was okay. But that's at the back of the car anyway, so that's fine. I'm happy with that. Could be a lot worse. Right, so
I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red.
So how did we do? Oh, pretty good. I can't really complain too much. Yeah, let it dry a little bit more, and then we'll be right back. So I'll finish the painting, sprayed over the silver on both sides. It's not perfect, but the stickers go round and they will line up nicely on that section, so it's not so bad. I sprayed it all silver on the inside. Now, shall we see what it came out like? A little bit of overspray there and there to get rid of, but all in all it's pretty good. I'll just polish out those little bits and we'll be right back. Well, I finished the painting. It came out okay. It's not perfect. Some of the lines are not quite as super sharp as I'd like it. The back section came out fine, and I started applying a few stickers. The hardest thing with this body is this canopy, you cannot hide it. There's no hiding. These lines that run along here and along here, you can see them from every single angle. So you really need to get them sharp. And I'm pretty good. They're not showroom perfect. So this will probably end up being my driver body. I'll do the other one the same and see how that comes out. And whichever's the best one, I will put on my Shelf Queen car. Obviously every time you paint a body you learn what works for that body, and there's mistakes you make, and then if you ever do another one you learn from those mistakes and then you don't make them again. So I quite like this back bit in silver, so when I do the next car I think I'm going to do that as well anyway, even though it's a lot more work. The bit that I'm not too happy with this car is this top line here is not perfect, and it needs to be super sharp and super perfect. It's okay. Putting the stickers on, just made a bit of a start. There's two main stickers for this car, this front section and then this one here. Now the tip for this car, when you put the back one, is you obviously want the back stickers to be perfectly lined up from here and here. But then that dictates this sticker position. But what you can do, which is what I found, is that you apply this section here, and then you can adjust the angle of the tail down to this section. The body itself has a line in the plastic that goes all the way along, so you can use that line to line up your first sticker, and then if you do that, the second sticker will usually line up perfectly fine with it, because it has a point here where it must be lined up correctly, but then it runs along this seam. So as long as you do that, if you do the back one first, bring it round, and then make sure you can get the tail lined up with this crease in the body, the next one will go on fine. So that's the secret for these two stickers, which is what I found. Also what you want to do is when you line up the first one, this first sticker is actually longer than it needs to be. So what you can do is when you place it down and you line up the next sticker, before you push it down is you cut it and remove that section, and you won't get a bump. What I've done as well is this yellow text writing of Racing Rats on the main box art is actually lower, and it's off of this line, but I quite like the contrast, and it also helps cover up some of the seam joins that you've got, so I quite like that. If this ends up being my driving body, then maybe I'll do the other one, but there's a few things that are not exactly the same as the box art, that and this obviously silver bit at the back, but I think the silver bit at the back actually makes it's worth the effort. I recommend doing it, and it just makes the back of the car a bit more interesting because the silver goes all the way around and then goes inside, and that looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that. And then round the back you've got a black line that you can have across the back. So yeah, I'm going to keep that if I do the next one, even though that's not box art. I think it should have been box art really, because it adds more detail. Anyway, what's next? Right, carry on with the stickers, and then I need to paint the rear spoiler. The reason I didn't paint the rear spoiler yesterday was the weather's been atrocious. It's been all over the place, so I'm struggling to get some low wind. There's lots of wind, there's rain, and then the sun comes out and then it rains again, and so it's making it difficult to paint these things. This isn't easy. There's only a couple of stickers that go on the sides with the numbers, and there's a main sticker that goes on the front. So this is actually quite an easy thing to paint. The vents aren't super deep either, so it's quite easy to get paint in there. It's a nice size gap, so it's not so bad. So it won't take long. It takes longer to cut this out than it probably would to paint it, because it's got this weird step thing going on for the back. But I'll do that just plain black, so I don't even need to mask anything up for that one.
Can somebody come and save me? I just wanna know. I wanna know.
I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light. I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light.
So there you go, that's the body pretty much done. I've still got the driver to do. It needs a polish because it's got my fingerprints all over it. It's not exactly box art, but I'm quite happy with it. I haven't decided whether it's going to be my driver or whether it's going to be my shelf queen. It came out just about good enough to be a shelf queen, but I'll see how I get on with the other one, and if it comes out slightly better, then that one will become the shelf queen, and then if not, then I will use this one. The other one is being cut out, but I'm yet to start painting it. I might try and do that later. Next thing to do is I want to paint the spoiler. I've got 2 to do, so I might as well make a start on those. But coming along, here's the original body, which you probably can't. It looks fine on the camera, but is actually pretty knackered. I don't think there's any real cracks. Slight cracking, but this could be saved, but it would need a lot of time to be put into it, so I'm not going to throw it away. I'll keep it, and if I ever get a quiet period, then I'll see if I can restore a few original bodies. But yeah, it came out fine, so it's looking okay. Right, let's crack on with the spoilers and paint them up. So I painted up the spoiler. I just need to peel off the plastic, and then we can stick the stickers on it and then drill the holes and fit it to the car. So let's do the fun bit and peel off the no problems with that, completely fine, but it's pretty straightforward, so there's nothing super complicated about it. So there you go, almost finished the first of the 2 cars. The body came out pretty good and I'm reasonably happy with it. The only thing that it needs, which I'm going to do off camera, is I have a full set of bearings. So this car I haven't actually stripped down, so I'm going to dismantle it, put the bearings in. Also I have a set of rear hubs in metal from Yi Racing to go on this car. And then that's pretty much it. It's got all new electronics in it, so it's a full driver now. I'll probably put a slightly more special motor in it at some point, but it's pretty much finished. Now, what have I got left to do on the other one? Well, I've cut out the body, that's fully done. I need to paint it. I'm actually going to paint it the standard colours again to see if I can get slightly better than this body. I probably end up selling one of these, I think, in the end. So I'll have just one shelf queen. These cars, you can't really drive them. Why do I say that now? Where's that come from all of a sudden? Well, my absolute mint-bodied car out of the 2, so this was going to be the runner and this is actually going to be the shelf queen. I placed it on a table, I picked it up and I put it down, and when I put it down it shattered the rear section. Just by placing it on the table, it's completely shattered the main piece that's in there and collapsed the whole suspension. Now, luckily for me, I have a parts bin. Every time I build a set of cars, I always have parts left over, so I keep them. So I have a box for every single one. And in this box, I have, luckily, 2 of these parts. Now, you probably know these parts are insanely rare, and luckily I have 2. Well, what's just imploded on the back of this one is this. The suspension sits on this, and it's just collapsed the whole plastic. So I can change it, luckily, so it's not the end of the world for me, and it won't cost me anything. The upright itself is not damaged. It's just the aggro of removing it. Now, I was going to put a different motor in this car anyway, so as I've got to take that apart, it's not the end of the world, but it shows me just how fragile these are. Now, I was planning to have this as a driving car, but it has the same designed rear part, just the same. And since these are getting old, they're becoming very fragile and there's no replacements. A few people have 3D printed them, and a few people have tried to fabricate them themselves. But I don't, unfortunately, I don't have the capability of doing that here. So I've decided I'm not really going to run the other car. So if I'm not going to run it and I'm not going to drive it, I might as well just pass it on to somebody else who wants it. It's probably at about 95%. The underside of the chassis is a little bit worn, but only a little bit. Apart from that, it's fully sorted. So it's a bit of a downer. So off camera, I will fix this. This is my fully mint one. So yeah, bit of a shame, but hey, that's vintage cars for you. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much. Bye bye.